Good evening. Acharya Fleet Maull here for Shambhala Mountain Center. Welcome to day 3 of Beyond Mindfulness, this 5-day conference in the Awaken the World series of Shambhala Mountain Center programs and retreats. We have a growing community here. It's really quite exciting. We're at least 27,000 registered for the conference from 135 different countries. And we're getting very strong numbers of views on all the videos, and people are really jumping in and making comments, and it's becoming a really engaged and active community, which is really wonderful. So for those of you who are watching, maybe for the first time, or maybe you've been with us every day, but nonetheless, please do post a comment right now and tell us where you are, where you're viewing this from, and what's going on for you, and anything you'd like to say about the conference. So people around the world can get to know you and get a sense of this community, and really, you know, I'm feeling this large body here of wonderful people from 135 countries all over the world. I'm going on and on here, but I'm struggling to really hold that. It's just amazing to me every time I think of it. So please do post. I'd like to first tonight talk a little bit about day 2, what happened yesterday. You may have seen some of the videos, or if you haven't had a chance, they will be available for another 24 hours until 6 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow, Saturday. And so jump in and watch them if you haven't. We had wonderful presentations. My colleague and co-host, Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, interviewed Reverend Earthlyn Manuel, Zenju Manuel, and this was an amazing conversation between two very innovative, very cutting-edge Dharma teachers who are leading the expansion of the Dharma and of mindfulness in American society in the West across all kinds of lines of race and class and gender. And they had a really wonderful conversation. And a couple of things that stuck with me was that Earthlyn Manuel, or this Zenju, was talking about moving beyond quietism. It's not enough just to kind of be quiet, but a much more engaged idea of mindfulness altogether, and talking about oneness and diversity, and really experiencing the oneness in our diversity. Howard Martin talking about heart math, interviewed by Travis Newbell, and really the intelligence of the heart, and the blending of heart-centered work, mindfulness, and compassion training with a scientific basis, and the use of technology. Really a fascinating conversation, which I encourage you to watch if you haven't seen it yet. And what can we say about Richard Rioch? What an eloquent introduction to the great stupa of Dharmakaya and to the connection with what the stupa represents and the practices of mindfulness and compassion. And it's just such a pleasure to listen to Richard and experience the depth of his practice and his understanding. And it really can't say enough about that. I felt like I was right there at the great stupa with him. Susan Shea, wonderful talk and guided meditation on self-compassion. In fact, you know, this whole day 2 set of presentations focused on open heart and compassion and relationship. And really, I don't know about the rest of you if you've watched a lot of those videos, but having watched them all, I feel like my level of what's called metta or maitri or self-compassion has gone up exponentially in just 24 hours. Just wonderful presentations. That meditation with Acharya Susan Shea, as well as the love and kindness meditation by Acharya Judith Simmer Brown, really wonderful. And I don't want to leave anybody out here. Yes, Acharya Galen Ferguson talking about changing the world by feeling the world, and just a wonderful talk on cultivating our innate qualities of courage and compassion and resilience as a foundation for working together to create enlightened society and to bring much needed change to our world and much needed healing. And then finally, Lodro Rinsler, listening to Lodro, it's sort of like I felt like he was in my own head, so to speak, because he's just speaking very frankly and humorously the thoughts that we all have in relation to ourself, our own kind of self-talk, which is often overly judgmental, and the kind of talk we have about our relationships and when we're in the midst of our relationships and those struggles and so forth, the suffering and joy of the relational experience. And he's doing it in such a direct way. I really felt like he was right between my ears, listening to my thoughts. Is kind of disarming. So wonderful, wonderful day of presentations that really inviting us into deeper and deeper levels of self-compassion as the ground for expressing greater compassion and really taking action to contribute to a saner, more compassionate, more humane, and more mindful world. So tonight's subject is about thriving in challenge and working with emotions. Thriving in challenge and working with emotions. And you notice it doesn't just say coping with challenges. And nothing wrong with coping and good coping skills, but going beyond mere coping to actually thriving, tremendous possibilities within mindfulness practice and various kinds of compassion practices and training. And we're going to have wonderful presentations. As kind of a lead into that, I want to lead a little exercise now. We're going to introduce a live webinar that's going to happen just about a week after this conference. I'm going to do a live webinar for all of you who might be interested, where we'll go even more deeply into this. It's called the 7 Keys of Mindful Leadership. And we'll go very deeply into these kinds of practices. But I just want to lead a brief exercise right now. So if you would just take a comfortable posture and maybe do a brief sort of body scan, right? Just from the soles of your feet all the way up to the top of your head, or from the top of your head all the way down, and just really land in the body. Feel the contact between your body and your chair or the cushion, the ground underneath us, heaven above. Take a moment to feel our breathing. And just do our best to feel grounded in the body and connected with our breath. Noticing if we're feeling energized and awake, or perhaps we're feeling a bit tired at the end of the day. And not needing to change that at all, but just in a very kind way with tremendous self-compassion, just tuning into how we feel right now and being very accepting of that, really honoring any challenges we're experiencing and just appreciating where we are in this very moment, in this experience of being alive in a human body. Then if you would, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And while staying present with the body, with the breath, to bring to mind something that may have happened recently where you felt yourself getting very emotionally activated or upset. Perhaps you had a conversation with a family member or loved one or friend that didn't go so well. Or perhaps it was a conversation or situation at work. So just allow the memory and feeling of that experience to come to mind. And notice what's occurring with your body, with your breathing. Just do your best to really bring this experience into the present moment, as if it was happening right now. Maybe you're right there with this person. Maybe there's some angry words being exchanged. Or maybe they were just words and misunderstandings and you were feeling hurt, upset. Notice the changes in your own physiology as you bring this experience to mind. Notice if you're moving to shallower breathing or chest breathing. Notice if your posture is beginning to collapse somewhat. Notice if you feel any heat or energy in the body. Just keep bringing your mind back again and again to this experience, allowing yourself to feel it as it was occurring in that moment. Don't forget to breathe. Nice, deep breaths. Then if you would, not to escape that experience, but staying with that experience, sit up with a good posture. Breathe in through your nose, and then out through pursed lips, as if you're breathing through a straw. In through the nose, out through pursed lips, as if through a straw. And counting the breath, make the out breath several counts longer than the in breath. So perhaps breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, and then breathing out a count of 6 or 7. And as you continue what we call this straw breathing, where you're breathing in through the nose and then out through pursed lips as if through a straw, notice any shift in your physiology. So I don't know what you're experiencing, but perhaps as you brought that somewhat challenging experience or upsetting experience to mind, you may have begun to upregulate a bit. The sympathetic branch of your autonomic nervous system became engaged, more so than the parasympathetic branch, these two balancing branches of our autonomic nervous system. And you began to upregulate and experience more adrenaline and noradrenaline in your bloodstream and in your brain. And if it went far enough, you might even begin to experience that kind of alarm in the amygdala and the movement towards that fight or flight response. But as we did the straw breathing, you feel again the calming effect of the parasympathetic branch of the autonomic nervous system being engaged. So we're going to do this again, very briefly here. This time, if you would, first connect with your posture again, with your breath. Feel grounded, and touch with your body and touch with your breath. And think of something someone often says to you that is triggering for you, emotionally triggering. We all have that someone in our lives. Perhaps it's our mate, our spouse, or our boyfriend or girlfriend. Perhaps it's a brother or sister, or perhaps it's our mother or father. And they often say this thing, and when they do, we get quite triggered. We're kind of right down the rabbit hole. So don't go there yet. Just come up with that situation if you would. And then if you would, close your eyes and just connect with your body and with your breath. And when I snap my fingers, just allow that trigger to happen. Not yet. So just sitting there, imagine you're there and this person is present. And then when you hear me snap my fingers, hear them say the triggering statement to you, and just be with what occurs in your body. And notice if it's kind of taking you down the proverbial rabbit hole a bit. And just notice how that feels, where that's going in your body. First, notice where it hits you in the body. Maybe in the throat or in the chest, you'll feel some tightness, or so maybe in the forehead or at the temples. But normally we feel something in the body, and then allow it to grab you a bit, okay? And see where that goes with the body. All right, so ready? Here we go. Just be ready. That person is there. The triggering statement. Just notice how it hits you. Let it begin to sort of take you. Just feel what you're feeling. And then lift up your posture again, nice and straight. Breathe in through the nose, out through pursed lips as if through a straw. And as you're doing the straw breathing, try to assure that you're breathing with the belly. So if you need to adjust your posture, so you're breathing primarily with the belly. And just continue this breathing until you bring yourself completely out of that experience. Open your eyes, look around, continue to breathe in through the nose, and then out through pursed lips as if through a straw. Okay, thank you very much. Be sure to really take the time to reestablish your good feeling confident, feeling okay. Just let go of whatever that situation was, let go of the triggers, breathe. Reconnect with the earth, look around, bring a smile to your face. Okay. So that was just a little taste of some simple self-regulation techniques to where when we find ourselves emotionally triggered or upregulated for some reason, or moving into what has been called the amygdala hijack, where the fight or flight response is taking over, or the executive function in our neocortex is being disengaged, and it's off to the races, right? Sometimes, and we sometimes react in ways that are not so helpful. So simple ways to manage our own physiology and to downregulate when we're overly upregulated in a way that won't be helpful to making good choices. So we'll go into this in much greater depth in this webinar, which we'll offer just about a week after the conference, called The 7 Keys for Mindful Leadership, which is basically a mindfulness-based emotional intelligence approach to getting in the lead with our own life to begin with, like being in that leadership position with our own life, rather than being in kind of a victim position, if you will, about being a victim of our own conditioning or of our own reactivity or of the things happening around us, but rather being in the lead with ourselves in a very compassionate way with ourselves, empowering ourselves in that way. And then in that way also being able to help others, help empower others to be in a lead in their own life, and to, when appropriate, taking leadership roles in our life, in our work, in our families, and so forth. But in that very empowering way that allows everyone to be at choice and be in the lead in their own life. So we'll go through that 7 keys to mindful leadership. And I'm also really excited to let you know about a course that Shambhala Mountain Center is going to offer. I've been doing a live seminar called Radical Responsibility for about 15 years all over the world. And I've turned it into an online course that's only been offered one time before, just back around November of last year. And so this is only the second time, and we're really offering it publicly this time to a large audience, which is a really in-depth dive into similar material. And we'll talk more about that later. But both those things are going to become available. And if you look at the top of the main page for all of these talks, there's a set of icons up there. And you'll see one of the icons says Radical Responsibility. You can click on there and find all about how to sign up for the free webinar that'll follow this conference. So I'd love to talk just a little bit about some of the wonderful presentations that we have coming up here with day 3. So to begin with, Shastri Nick Krantz is going to invite us to contemplate what he calls intelligent passion. Intelligent passion, how it differs from blind passion, and how it can transform how we view our relationships. So that's a really interesting one in this realm of thriving in the face of challenges and managing our emotions, because often in our relationships, our emotions can, when not well regulated, can get us into trouble. So in the same way that Trungpa Rinpoche talked about avoiding idiot compassion, I think Shastri Krantz here is talking about avoiding sort of idiot passion, if you will. Then I had the wonderful opportunity to do an interview and a dialogue with health psychologist Dr. Kelly Mcgonigal from Stanford University. Some of you may have seen her TED Talk, which is quite well known now, and she's got a new book coming out, which is really changing some of our views about stress. That stress is not necessarily bad for us at all. In fact, it can be good for us. It really depends on how we think about it, how we relate with it, and we can actually become good at stress and learn to thrive in challenging situations. And then Shastri Holly Gailey, will talk to us about relaxing that habit of micromanaging ourselves. Just kind of following on the self-compassion talks from day 2. So can we relax that tendency to micromanage ourselves and develop a more naturally friendly relationship with ourselves, and from that more self-friendly, self-compassionate ground, discover the fearlessness and the courage to relate to the uncertainty of life. Acharya Dan Hesse will lead us in a guided meditation really into the same territory of discovering that innate courage and fearlessness and resilience that we all have. And then finally, best-selling author Susan Piver will present teachings on how to cultivate discipline in our lives without just beating ourselves up. So we have a great lineup, and right after this intro, you can go to that place where you can just click below, and you'll get access to all of these presentations, immediate access, and really would encourage you again, as you go through that, to continue to post your comments. It's really helpful. I've been reading through all the comments as well as watching all the videos, and it's just really wonderful to see the impact that these presentations are having on people all over the world. So please do post your comments. And I mentioned that the videos from the first night, those videos are no longer available. From day 2, the videos are available for another 24 hours. But just a reminder, if you would like to have all these videos so you don't miss any, Maull Mountain Center has put together a wonderful resource package that includes very high quality recordings of all the video presentations from the entire conference, as well as a 3-day retreat led by Dan Hesse, a 3-day mindfulness retreat, and a 7-day mindfulness meditation challenge with 7 different amazing mindfulness teachers, and some other wonderful resources. So that's available, and you can easily find that on the website here. So welcome to day 3 of the Beyond Mindfulness Conference, thriving in the face of challenges, thriving with challenge, and working with our emotions. This seems to really get into the heart of the matter, right? We're all dealing with how we relate with our emotions and the way we respond to, we react to the world around us in the midst of our lives, and being able to develop some abilities to compassionately self-manage that actually gives us much, much greater confidence in our lives. So I'm really looking forward to watching all these videos, and I hope you are too. And I'll see you again tomorrow evening.